Hello, my passenger friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Carffice Podcast. My car office. I'm your host, Greg Gross. Please buckle up and enjoy the ride. What is going on, my passenger friends? We are on episode 7, lucky number 7. Anybody else like the number 7? I actually kind of do. I like it. I think actually when I was in middle school, I was number 7 when we played boys and girls club soccer and basketball and flag football. Actually, it was called flutterball, which, wow, I'm really going off on a thing just right away here. But flutterball is like where you could like throw it, but only take a couple steps, and then you can throw it again and take a couple steps, but everything else was like football. So there you go. There's a little rich history. Anybody else remember that, or Boys and Girls Club? And it was a lot of fun, actually. It was a lot of fun. So number 7, that's where I was going with that. Well, thank you again, everyone, for your support. Who watches this, shares this, likes it, subscribes to it, passes it on, comments, gives feedback, sends in questions, everything like that. Just want to let you know, super appreciative of that. And please keep doing it. Please keep passing on the love of the Carffice Podcast. If it's adding value to your life, please keep passing it on, because that's what we do to things that add value to our life, right? Check this out. Look at this, post, all that kind of stuff. Share. So, hey, we are in episode 7. In this episode, the title of it is My Death to Life Story. My Death to Life Story. And some things that I'm going to share in this episode, a little bit of a heads up or a disclaimer. I'm going to go something I have shared in bits and pieces in some of my last episodes, or if you just know my story, I've shared these things in some settings, but I'm about to lay it all out there today. I am, and some stuff is going to be graphic. Some stuff might be hard to listen to, and why wouldn't it be if it's my death to life story? So I just wanted to kind of, this might not be for every type of audience potentially. So just, parents or whatever, just want to let you know that. But I figured, hey, now's the time to be completely vulnerable, to be completely open about some of this stuff. And I'm going to be putting this in my book someday that I'm currently writing called Never Walk. So why not just tell you? So I am in a parking lot. Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, actually a Walmart parking lot. And so I don't know if someone's going to, better lock my doors again. I don't know if I'm going to get disrupted, but like I said, if it does, I'm just going to keep the camera rolling. Sound good? Good. Oh, and by the way, have anyone ever heard of this? Bubbly Bounce caffeinated sparkling water. It has 35 grams of caffeine. So cheers. Try it out. It's good stuff. Well, we're going to jump in today, and it's going to be I'm going to try to give as much detail as I possibly can from beginning to end, and really allow you guys into my story, really where Never Walk, living a life of perseverance hit home for me. And I hope you enjoy. So here we go. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease back in 5th grade. So that was like 21 years ago, something like that. And it was kind of crazy. So how I found out that I was diagnosed is for a couple months, I was having trouble swallowing things. Every time I swallowed something, it would hurt my throat as it went down. And I always complained to my mom, and I thought, I just had a sore throat or something. And then finally she just said, she's a nurse, by the way, so she kind of had a little, she just told me to suck it up because she worked in the ER. So she literally saw it all. So she's like, oh, you got a sore throat, swallowing stuff, whatever, suck it up. So it's like, okay, thanks, Mom. Well, it went on for, I think, a month or two. And finally she's like, all right, let's take you in. Doctors ran some tests, said, hey, we probably should do a scope on you, which means they put a camera down your mouth. Like, we might as well put camera up your back end too, all this kind of stuff. So that was fun. And after running those tests at Children's Hospital, they found ulcers and sores throughout my whole esophagus and through my intestine, large intestine and stuff. And they're like, well, long story short, they're like, we're going to be diagnosing you with Crohn's disease. What in the world is that, right? I'm a 5th grader, about 11 years old, and I get diagnosed with the disease. And I also just want to say everything I'm going to share is relative. So what I mean by that, it's relative to my story and to my journey. And I would never compare this to somebody else's health journey or say it's worse or easier or whatever like that. So I'm going to be speaking out of what it was for me. So I'm not going to be, oh yeah, this was so much harder than someone battling cancer or whatever it is. That's not what I'm trying to do when I talk about this stuff today. Because it's just my experiences and what's relative to me. So with all that being said, obviously that was really hard news to get as a 5th grader. Didn't even know what it meant, didn't understand. I just knew I was sick. I was sick and I was not feeling well. I had a great doctor, remember his name was Dr. Martinez, and through all my childhood, through I was 18. And he was, I had a lot of treatments. I got put on a lot of medication, 6-MP, steroids, my cheeks got all puffy, all this kind of stuff, and I was put on infusion drugs. I mean, I actually have been off and on Remicade, which I'm currently on right now every 8 weeks. I've been off and on that almost my whole life. It helps just with the inflammation and stuff, but keeps me in, just maintenance drug really now. But man, it was scary. It was scary. I didn't really know, and my mom, obviously, being a nurse, she was a huge help, but it was scary. Well, throughout my life here, I was kind of off and on, and then middle school came around, and I remember in middle school, I was starting to get really sick again. So a couple years later, they got it under control, but got pretty sick again. Well, around this time in 7th grade, I was told I was going to have surgery. And what happened is there was a fistula that created in my intestine, which was one of my intestines was closing in. It was so sore that it was closing in, and stuff wasn't going to be able to go through there, if you know what I mean, after a while, the stool. And so I had a surgery scheduled. It was around the winter time, maybe the new year, around when I was in 7th grade. And I went off to this winter retreat. So for those of you that know me or don't know a lot of my story, I grew up in the church, Assemblies of God, and I had faith. I have faith in Jesus, still do today. And I went off to one of my first winter retreats with my youth group back then. And I obviously wasn't feeling the best, but I was good enough to go. And I knew I had surgery, excuse me, a couple weeks after that. And so went off, had a great time. One of the nights, the speaker was talking about how he called it the Holy Ghost. You might hear about Holy Spirit, but how, Jesus can heal you, and, he can help, he can heal, he can give you peace, he can give you strength. And obviously the only thing I heard that night was heal. And so I went down front as a little 7th grader, and I asked Jesus to heal me that night, to take out what was bad and put in what was good. And if you've had experiences with Jesus or whatever your faith background is and beliefs, that's up to you, but I'm just sharing out of my experience today. And I was down front, and I remember it was one of the most powerful moments I've ever had in my relationship with Jesus. And I remember after I said, take out what is good and take out what is bad and put in what is good, I just felt something come over me, which I believe was the Holy Spirit. I felt something just go through my body and literally, just take out what is bad and put in what is good. And it was very emotional. I mean, I was crying, snot going everywhere, and just sitting as a little Gregory in 7th grade in Jesus' presence. And I got up from that moment, ran to my youth pastor, and my friends. I'm like, I'm healed, because I haven't gone through puberty, right? So I'm like, hi. And I was so excited, and everyone was excited for me, but they weren't really as excited as I thought they would be. Well, that weekend was done. I went home, told my parents, I'm like, Mom, Dad, I'm healed. I don't need surgery anymore. But, as parents, probably being skeptical, I just had this faith. I knew it, the experience I had with Jesus. And they still took me in a couple weeks later for my surgery. And I was still like freaking out. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. Like, I feel healed. I feel better. What the heck? What's going on? My parents don't believe me. Well, just like any procedure, they just took some, blood work, just some, they're not just going to dig into you, right? Without, doing some checkups and different things and just checking, make sure everything's, set for the surgery. Well, after all those checkups and stuff like that, I was in the hospital. The doctor came into the room. My mom and dad were there. My doctor came up to my bedside and he goes, I don't know how to explain this. I don't know what to say other than we're not going to have to do surgery anymore because it was there and now the fistula's gone. And I was like, hey, and my parents are just like looking, and I was like looking at them and I said, I told you, you know what I'm saying? And so my pastor friends, it was confirmed that I was healed and I didn't have to have surgery. And that was a huge turning point, obviously, in my faith in my life at that time, too. The following year, I felt like I was called in the youth ministry. And at that time, all I knew was it was vocational. So that's what I did for most of my adulthood until I transitioned into a missional entrepreneur, which I've shared that before. But I digress. Middle school, it was crazy. It was crazy. And my faith was very solidified in the Lord at that time. And, again, I was off and on still on medications, but I was healthy. I mean, I was good. I could do basically anything a teenager could do. And I got infusions once every 8 weeks that helped me stay stable. High school went great. I did everything a high schooler would do. I even wrestled, and nothing really held me back. Nothing. And around that time, middle school is when the Never Walk saying was given to me from my brother. And that was just like, hey, Greg, don't give up, keep going, persevere. That helped me through just a mindset. What didn't grow to what it is today, obviously, with my tattoo and everything like that. But, and a couple tattoos, I guess, and my hats that I usually wear that you've seen and everything like that, the branding. But, college, I felt good, transitioned into college. Again, I was under control. They call it remission. I was in remission for most of my life. Well, here's the turning point. Here is the turning point. So, in 2014, in summer of 2013, I transitioned out of my second youth ministry job in 2 years. And so, and those are episodes for another time, like I told you, Delano and Beloit. And it was very stressful, very hard. And I'm someone that internalizes stress. So I internalized all that stress in the summer of, through 2011, 12, 13. And that summer 2013, as I transitioned out of my second youth pastor job in 2 years, it was really hard. It was really hard. And I internalized all that stress, and it erupted my Crohn so much. I had C. diff. If you don't know what that is, it's disgusting. You're just basically pooping your brains out. And I was on the toilet all the time, and I was just getting more and more and more sick. Inflammation came back, everything. Excuse me. Let me get some more bubbly bounce. Bubbly bounce. If you guys can tell if I get a little more crazy, it's that 35 milligrams of caffeine. So, yes. Good stuff. Good stuff. And so, around that time as well is when I got the, and I'll give more of these details later, but around that time is when I got a call from my mentor in Kenosha who told me, hey, Mentor John Brown, shout out. I love you, man. And he told me, hey, I have a perfect position for you. No pay, but you're perfect for the job. And at the time, I was thinking about hanging up vocational ministry because of all the hurt I went through, which I'll share later. But I trusted John, trusted what was going on. They're having a multi-site, and I said yes. But remember, I was getting more sick. I was actually living with my parents for the first time in a Conwalk at this time with just my wife, though we had no kids. Actually, just before I got sick, my wife got pregnant with our first child, Emerson, now who's almost 7 in August. Holy cow. And throughout that summer, up until December, we still lived with my parents, but that's December of 2013. But starting in September 23rd, lived with my parents through December of 2013, but starting in September of 2013 is when we started traveling from Oconomowoc to Burlington, Wisconsin, about 3 days a week. As I was getting more and more sick, I got down 130 pounds. I was wasting away. finally moved to Burlington in the new year or December of 2013. My wife was working full time, taking care of me, and she was pregnant. And it was really hard. Again, I couldn't eat anything really. I was on the toilet all the time. I had no energy, and I was just losing weight because with Crohn's disease, your body doesn't absorb the nutrients. So everything was just going through me. It was just all going through me, and I had full-fledged inflammation, and it was painful, and just everything, blood, everything that you can imagine when it comes to Crohn's disease, I had it. And it was scary. It was scary. I went through seasonal depression, and all I did is sit on my sofa, watch a lot of Even Stevens, Pawn Stars. Got to learn a lot about, just pawning off things, I guess, which was a fun show. And guys, I wasn't doing much of anything. Well, I was volunteering, obviously, at the youth ministry, but slowly couldn't even do that. By the new year of 2014, I was about done. That's when I got to my lowest, 130 pounds. I was on something called TPN. You probably can't see this on video. There's a little scar still. But it was a PICC line that went to my heart, and it pumped this thing called TPN into my body, 1,200 calories a day for about 2 months, just so I could stay alive because I couldn't eat or absorb nutrients. Doctors basically said in Madison, and then we got a second opinion at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, said, hey, if we don't take this large intestine out, you're going to die. So here I am. My wife's pregnant with our first child. I'm going through a death-to-life experience. It was really hard, like I said, very emotional for all of us. And the never walk mentality really started getting real, to fight and to persevere. And I got to a point where it got so bad. My wife came home from work one day. I was in the bedroom and I was just crying. Got off the phone with my mom, my doctor, and basically said, hey, why don't we admit you into the ER? This was like in February of 2014, mid-February probably. And why don't we admit you into the ER in Madison and see what they do for you. And we'll just go from there. So we drove to Madison. They admitted me. And I stayed in the hospital for almost 2 months. But I kind of started feeling a little better because I was getting pumped with fluids and they're taking good care of me. But staying in the hospital for a couple months, I actually missed the ultrasound of Emerson to find out that she was a girl during that time. And so that was hard. Couldn't even be there. They let Courtney FaceTime me in, which was a blessing at the time. And, man, it was just crazy times. Because I couldn't eat, I'd have a routine. Like every day I'd go down to the cafeteria and I'd look at the food. I'd look at it. And I know that sounds so sad. It was. And I'd be like, I'm going to eat you again someday. I'm going to eat you again someday. I'd maybe take like a fortune cookie and look at my fortune. I'd eat a fortune cookie. But, man, it's just all the food you can think of, right? At a food court down in a hospital. And it was sad, but it got me moving, got me up, and got me going. And, so that was really, as you can imagine, tough. And, I also remember writing letters to my wife, to my unborn child, Emerson, making sure my wife knew where all my stuff was. And here's the thing, the surgery itself wasn't like, per se, like a very, high-risk surgery. But they're digging in and taking out my large intestine. And so, anything could happen. They nick something, boom, I'm gone. And so I just wanted to make sure my family had stuff from me in my heart and my little girl. So it was very emotional. And if you know me, I'm a sentimental guy. So all that was going on. And I just remember talking to some family members, some friends. One family member in specific, she was my cousin's wife. Her name was Lori. She passed away about 5 years ago from cancer, I believe, about 5 years ago, maybe 4 to 5. And she also lived with an ostomy, and she had cancer throughout her body. And she told me something when she was still alive, when I was going through my hard times. She said, Greg, something that's helped me is, God, I can do this if you can use this. God, I can do this if you can use this. And, you know, I really held on to that during that season, because he's still using it right now. As I'm talking to you about it today, he's still using my story to help people get through whatever they're going through. If they need more perseverance, hey, you know, maybe you don't believe in God, but someone out there you're fighting for. You're fighting for friends, for family. You can do this. Your story can be used. You can do this, so keep going. And obviously, if you are a believer, God's going to use your story if that's something you believe. And I still believe that, and he's still using it. And that's why I'm sharing it today and writing a book and everything like that. So, surgery. Surgery finally happened April 18th of 2014. I remember my last normal bowel movement on the toilet the night before, because my surgery was like at 5 a.m. And they put a epidural in for the pain, so I got to press that. I remember I remember how excited and scared I was at the same time. My wife was there, my mom and dad. Went into surgery, came out. When I came out of surgery, it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. I mean, obviously. I just had my large intestine ripped out. And I remember them asking me, hey, how much pain are you in? And I was like I'm in like in a 10. So they pressed the button. Okay, 9, press the button. 8, press the button. 7, 6. So I kept pressing the epidural button. And it felt good. It felt good, y'all. And my pain was managed, obviously, throughout that night. They wanted me to get up and walk like the next day. That was the most painful thing. I mean, when you rip into your intestines and all that it was hard. It was hard. And, but I got to pray over the hands of my surgeon the night before, Dr. Harms. He's an amazing man. He let me pray over his hands. The surgery couldn't have went any better or any smoother. I said it went probably better than any surgery up to that point that he's done. He's one of the best surgeons in the nation, actually. Well-renowned and liked. So I was very blessed to have him. Just great doctors throughout the whole thing. Except for this one doctor, by the way. Well, I didn't really know him. I don't even know his name, but I remember he would, after my surgery, he'd come into my room and it was like 6 in the morning, and he'd throw open the curtains. And I'm like sleeping. I'm not even getting that good of sleep. He's like, all right, time to get up, time to move around. He did this like every day for a week. Finally, he came in the room and I said, you shut those curtains. Like, I'm like, I'm not ready to get up. I go back to sleep every stinking time you leave my room. So I'm like, you keep those curtains closed. I didn't say it quite like that, but I was pretty firm with him. I was like, what in the world is this guy opening my curtains every morning at 6 a.m.? You think I'm going to be moving around here? I just had surgery. So anyways, good people though. Pretty great experience. Madison is a teaching hospital, so there's a lot of students that came into with doctors and learning and all this kind of stuff. So that's great. Well, hey, after surgery, I started getting better. Hey, I could eat again. I went home. That was a painful experience. I had to sleep in a lazy boy for a couple months. My wife taking care of me still. My mother-in-law, father-in-law came and visited. We were in Burlington at that time, and I was laid up. We were laid up in a what are they called? A Victorian home, top floor. Someone let us rent it out. Beautiful. And that's where we lived. And I had a home nurse come in. Her name was Ruby. Actually, she came in before surgery and after. And that's actually where Etney got her middle name. Our youngest daughter, Etney Ruby, was named after my at-home nurse during and after my surgery. She's the sweetest old lady. We actually considered naming one of our kids Ruby, but it's Etney Ruby. And so Ruby did pass away a handful of years ago, I believe. So, but she was such a phenomenal woman and left such a mark on my life in that season. So, but I could eat again, and so I did, and it was good. It was slow, all that food I said I'm going to eat you again, I ate again, and that was part of my other health journey where I went up to from 2014 to 2018. I had this mentality, Greg, you almost died, so you can eat whatever you want. So that went into my other health journey where I went from 130 pounds to 215 pounds in 4 years, from 2014 to 2018. That's when I found my buddy introduced me program. I lost 35 pounds in 11 weeks. I never went back, changed my habits, changed everything, helped with my inflammation, And literally that's why I became a health coach, and how I've been able to help over 350 people in 21 different states in 2.5 years. So I'm telling you, just different mindsets and shifts throughout my years in my health journey, where Never Walk has come in, and even up to this point, which I'll come back to, where I'm currently at with my Crohn's. But going back to, okay, so here's the deal. Here's probably one of the hardest parts to share that I haven't shared really publicly. So this is where it's going to get maybe a little graphic, a little hard to hear. I guess it hasn't been too bad up to this point, but this might be tough for some people to hear. So just another heads up. So when they did my first surgery, they took out my whole large intestine all the way down to my rectum, basically, and left a little bit in there. And that's normal. And then you go back a year later, once you're healed up, and they take out the rest of your rectum and then sew up down there, because you're not using it anymore, people. I know, crazy. I'm living with an ostomy. I'm living with my small intestine sticking out of my stomach, turned inside out and sewed back on my stomach. Okay, I actually posted a picture about it for the first time on my social media this past April. You can find that on Facebook or Instagram, Greg_Gross or Gregory Lee Gross on my Facebook. But I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy what technology can do, and I'm super blessed to still be alive. But here's the deal. A year later, I went back in for it should be even easier surgery. You're going to take the rest out, sew it up, be done, right? Well, unfortunately, I didn't know I was going to be walking into something even harder than my surgery the year before. So here's what happened. After my surgery, everything went great. A year later, sewing me up down there, taking the rest of my rectum out. But they took my catheter out. Catheter. You don't know what that is. Yeah, anyways. So they took my catheter out because they put that in during surgery. It's normal, so I'm not peeing everywhere, right? And I believe they didn't know this at the time. No one did, but they pulled it out too early, and I still couldn't pee. I still couldn't pee that next day. And they believed it because of the drugs maybe or whatever like that. So I was trying everything to pee because I had to go pee, but I couldn't pee. The muscles down there weren't working yet because of the medication or something like that. Well, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, if you have to really go pee really bad, but you can't. But that's what was happening to me. And it kept building up, and it kept building up, and it kept building up. My bladder was building up, and they're looking at it, and it was expanding. And I tried everything you can think of, all the tricks to try to pee. I was in so much excruciating pain to have to go pee, and I couldn't. Most pain in my life. I had worship music on. I was worshiping. I was all this kind of stuff. So finally, a nurse came in and said, we need to stick the catheter back in so we can release this for you. And so she came in, and I was just like in so much pain at this time. And I'm just like, yes, just put the catheter back in. I mean, it was emotional. I was crying. It was hard. And so she's putting the catheter back in, but she's like, oh, I missed. And for some reason, she couldn't get it in. And she tried again, and she missed. And so then she's like, I'm not going to try anymore. A different nurse came in. That nurse tried twice. She missed twice. Now they've tried 4 times over the course of like a half hour. My bladder is still filling up, mind you. It's so painful. I mean, them missing the catheter is painful, but what was even more painful was my bladder and all the pressure. So I was laying on my back on my bed, called my wife. I was crying, listening to worship music. Didn't know what to do. It was like midnight at that point. They called in a urologist. Urologist came in, tried a couple times. He missed, okay? So now a urologist, not even a nurse, missed twice. Now, 6 different times they poked me, mind you. Every time they try another time, another 15, 20 minutes goes by. So my bladder is still filling up to the point where it could burst, everybody. So now they're trying to call in another urologist, but he's sleeping or she's sleeping, can't remember. So that person had to drive in 20 minutes. So now I have 2 urologists over my bed, and they have to scope me with a camera down you know what to see what's going on, to try to get the catheter in. And they missed the first time, so now that's 7 different attempts. Finally, the 8th attempt, probably felt like 20 different times, they finally got the catheter in. Instantly, I felt the release in my bladder, and it felt so good, but it was a complete mess, as you could imagine, with everything else going on down there. And I'm telling you, people, it was the worst night of my life. The most painful thing I've ever been through. Even more painful than coming out of surgery. And now I had a whole nother journey ahead of me that I never thought would ever happen. And it was supposed to just be a normal, easy surgery. So the catheter was in. They found out later on that they couldn't take my catheter out. And the reason for that was because, unfortunately, when that first nurse originally went into my urethra, she created a false passage in my urethra. Pretty much put a hole. Yes, I know. Felt great through my urethra. So I had to keep a catheter inside of me for another month, another 4 to 6 weeks after my surgery, because the hole in my urethra had to heal up. So I had to go back to a urologist like every other week or every week to see how the false passage was healing up. Okay, and so I went home with, so now I have a poop bag and a pee bag. You might think that's really convenient, which it was, but I was having muscle spasms, everything like that. My friends, my pastor friends, it was horrible. It was horrible. I mean, I couldn't really do anything. I was sat up for another month. Finally, after over a month, I was able to get the catheter out. The false passage healed up more, but then, I'm just telling you, this is the Carffice Podcast. I'm putting it all out there for you today. But then I was having trouble down there being able to, use those parts for what they're used for. Okay, I guess I am trying to be a little bit not as graphic. So here's the deal. This obviously affected, me and my wife, and it was one of those things where, I had to go see other doctors, right? And this went on for about 6 months to 8 months, maybe almost a year. I didn't have full function back down there because of this catheter incident. So now within 2 years, I have a large intestine ripped out, catheter incident, having troubles in my man stuff, right? And it was painful, inconvenient, scary. Didn't know if I could have kids again, which obviously we had 2 more kids. And if you haven't added it all up, everything's great now. It has been for years. Thank you, Jesus. But it was just the walking through it, never walk, right? The perseverance through it, all these things that came out of those years from 2013, 14, 15, going even into late 2015, of all these complications with surgeries. And yeah, it was a mess. Figuratively, literally, it was a mess. It was a journey. It was a never walk perseverance process. It really was. And again, I'm just sharing out of my own experience, my own relative reality. And I don't know. I just I'm glad it's over. I'm glad it's over. So I kind of already mentioned this a little bit. So there we go. That closes down that. You're welcome. Then it transitioned into 2018. I kind of already shared that. I went from 130 pounds to 215 pounds. Made the excuse, Greg, you almost died. You can eat whatever you want. I did. Got way overweight, relatively speaking. Found a program. Brought me back to true health habits, lifestyle. Now I get to share those programs with other people, health coach, life coach people. Has changed my whole family, changed my whole trajectory. Love being a missional entrepreneur. But I had to change my mindset first. Remember, many times we aren't where we need to be physically. It's because we're not where we need to be mentally. And I went from death to life in my body. I had to go from death to life in my mind. And now I've been able to restore both. I have a healthy mind. I have a healthy body through modern medicine, and now through nutrition and habits and eating right. And, obviously I couldn't be any healthier. I'm still on Remicade, which is a maintenance every 8 weeks. I get an infusion through my vein. And so, holy cow. But mostly I've been able to heal my inflammation through nutrition and eating correctly. And the program helped me do that too. So, man, I'm blessed up to this point. But it has been a ride, my pastor friends. It's been a ride. You like that? And you know what? I love my stoma. That's what the small intestine is. That's sticking out of my stomach's flipped inside out and sewn onto my stomach. That's my stoma. And by the way, like, I would never go back. I would never go back to going to the bathroom on the toilet. I never have to go on the toilet. I mean, I've probably pooped for enough people, like 8 people's lifetimes. I really have. So there you go. Like, when I was really sick, I was on the toilet like 20 times a day. So you know what? I have a great life. I can do everything I want. I remember at the time I was really scared because I didn't think I could wrestle. I didn't think I could go on roller coasters anymore because it's like right there where, you know, you put the little latch up and everything. I didn't think I could do all these things, but I can. I can do everything and even more than I ever thought. I've run a marathon since. I've done all these crazy things. My stoma has not held me back. Yes, I got to be careful, but it hasn't held me back. And by the way, here's a fun side note. And as you know, here's a fun side note. I named my stoma Wayne. My wife used to call me Poop Stain back in the day. And so, I think she called me Poop Stain Wayne. So I named my stoma Wayne, and then some of my close friends knew. Now the whole world knows because I put it on here. But, you know, one of my friends was like the Splat Cave or Wayne's World or the Wayne above all other Waynes. But Poop Stain Wayne, I named my stoma Wayne because, hey, I'm going to have this brother for the rest of my life. He's going to get a name. So Wayne, everybody meet Wayne. Hi, Wayne. And, yeah, that's the name of my stoma. Not the bag. It's actually my intestine is named Wayne. So there you go. And no offense to any Waynes out there or whatever. So, but yeah, never want to even go. I can't go back. I can't. Some people are able to have that reversed and attach it back to the rectum. But remember, I don't have a rectum anymore. So to anything to attach it to down there. So no going back. And kind of that goes into where I want to write a book. I'm writing a book called Never Walk, talking about a lot of my experiences, a lot of this, and there's going to be a lot more in it. That's also why I love the Carffice Podcast, but that's why I'm going to be launching the Team Never Walk podcast by the end of the summer, early fall, and that's going to all be about stories of perseverance. That's going to be my main, probably one of my main babies too. This will be used more for documentary and just me, but the Team Never Walk podcast, I'm going to bring on guests and I want them to share their stories of perseverance. It could be so broad, it doesn't have to be health, it could be any type of story of perseverance, and I want to interview them to add value to you and to this world and to highlight them for their courageous never walk stories, their lives of perseverance. And so that's really my heart, and that's going to, you know, lead into me sharing that with you into the world and my book, and hopefully, you know, being able to speak and talk to so many people about how to live a life of perseverance and why that's so important, and how it can really encourage other people. So, wow, I believe, I don't know how long this is. I think maybe almost 40 minutes or a little bit longer, maybe coming up on 40 minutes, maybe, whatever. But that's my story. That is the most detailed, I believe, I've ever shared my story publicly. Obviously, you can't do a post. You can't, I've shared some of that stuff with other people, but never publicly have I shared in much detail as I did today. And, you know, my book will probably even go into more detail someday. So, I hope that was helpful in whatever way, especially if you're going through a hard time right now, maybe in your health, maybe emotionally, maybe something else physically, maybe in a relationship, maybe, I don't know, in your finances. I don't know, my pastor friends, but maybe you're going through something really tough and you need to be reminded today, hey, keep going, never give up, persevere, never walk. It's making you stronger, and keep fighting for your family, your friends. You know, for all my faith-believing friends out there, you can do this. You know, I can do this if God can use this, and God will use your story, regardless. You know, He will, no matter what. He will, no matter what you're going through. If you allow Him to, your story is going to be used in an impactful way, and that's why I chose to share this today. That's why I chose to take an extra amount of time to go into detail about this, because this is the main birth of why I became so passionate about Never Walk and perseverance. It's because of what I walked through, and I can share it on the other side, and it sounds really easy and sounds like it was so smooth and everything like that, but I'm telling you, it obviously wasn't. It was one of the hardest, probably hardest seasons of my life. And I'm grateful it's over, but I'm also grateful I went through it, because I'm the person I am today because of it. And fun side note, when people have surgeries, when it has to deal with their intestines and they get pieces of their intestines going out, you know that it's scientifically proven that their personality changes. And what I mean by that, if you're familiar, for example, if you're familiar with the disc profile, I was like a high D on the disc profile before surgery. Well, I'm like more like a DI now. And so I calmed down a little bit, which I guess you're welcome. Nothing wrong with the high Ds. But, it's crazy how, just biologically and scientifically, your body will change because you had an intestine surgery. So that's kind of crazy, kind of cool. So, well, I think that's about it. Let me take another sip of this bubbly bounce here for you. Cheers. Just want to thank you again for taking time to tune in today. Thank you again for sharing this. Thank you again for liking and subscribing, and for posting about it, and for your support, and for all your kind words and your questions. And please keep sending them in, and please keep asking me things, or all that kind of stuff. Again, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for you, and I hope this reaches at least one person today. Today was a little deeper. Today was hopefully maybe a little bit more value adding through my story. So I hope it was helpful. I really do. And again, I appreciate you all. Stay tuned. The next episodes are going to be a doozy kind of as well, going in more detail. Going to be a little bit more vulnerable, give a little bit more details about my experiences in Delano, Beloit, and in Burlington. That's what my next 3 episodes are going to be about. And so I'm excited about that too. I'm excited for you to hear and to tune in and hear all the good, bad, ugly, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a little cliffhanger for you. So yeah, I think that's about it. I think that is about it. And plus, I have to pee really bad, so I really need to shut this down. Otherwise, we're gonna have other issues. So there you go. There you go. My podcast, I can say what I want, obviously. So, all right, my passenger friends, I hope you enjoyed your ride today in my Carffice. Hope it helped you in your current location or towards your next destination. Until next time, be well.